Right, so you want the inside scoop on Alexandrine parakeets and you want it fast.
Sounds about right.
Well, you're in luck, because today we're diving deep into a guide written by an actual Alexandrine parakeet breeder.
Oh, wow, an expert.
Yeah, and this is way more than just like, Parakeets 101.
More than just the basic, huh?
Exactly.
Cool. So, like, you mentioned Alexander the Great introducing these birds to Europe, but the guide goes into why they were so prized, especially by, like, the nobility and all that.
Oh, so why were they so sought after? I mean, was it just because they look so cool?
Their looks were definitely a part of it, but there's more to it. Like, Alexandria parakeets are known for, being smart and stuff and, like, their talking ability.
Oh, I see.
So back then, a talking bird was a symbol of, intellect and status.
Makes sense.
Like, imagine a nobleman with a parakeet, like, mimicking philosophical discussions and stuff. Talk about making an impression.
Haha, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right.
So they weren't just pets.
No.
They were like living, breathing status symbols.
Exactly.
That's a fascinating historical tidbit. And speaking of fascinating, the guide mentions like 5 distinct types of Alexandrine parakeets. It's not just, one blanket term.
5 types?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, right? So how are they different? Is it just like where they're found, or are there like visual differences too?
Well, location definitely plays a role. Like, you have the Psittacula eupatria magnorostris.
Whoa, try saying that 5 times fast.
I know, right?
So what's special about that one?
Well, they live on the Andaman Islands, and they've actually evolved with, like, noticeably larger beaks than other types,
Oh, so that's why it's called Magnorostris.
Exactly.
Okay, so even within the Alexandrine parakeet family, there's variation based on their, environment.
Right.
That's cool.
Adaptation is key. Now, about caring for these majestic birds, our breeder has some pretty strong opinions, especially when it comes to housing.
4-meter flights. It's bigger than some apartments I've lived in.
Well, it is a commitment. But the guide emphasizes that providing ample space is crucial for these birds to thrive. Like, they're not meant to be cooped up in tiny cages.
Right.
So it's not just about, like, the bird's physical well-being,
Oh, okay.
but their mental and emotional health as well.
I see. It's about the whole package.
Exactly. The breeder goes into detail about how, like, a spacious environment allows them to engage in natural behaviors, exercise their wings, and basically live, like, a more fulfilling life.
And it's not just about the size of the enclosure, right? The guide also mentions weekly cleaning and yearly disinfection.
Oh, yeah.
This breeder, really takes hygiene seriously.
Absolutely. The guide stresses that, maintaining a clean environment is crucial for preventing the spread of diseases. It's a proactive approach to ensuring the bird's health.
So it's not just about, providing a spacious and stimulating environment. It's about creating a safe and healthy one, too. Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about breeding. The guide mentions Alexandrine parakeets get that nesting urge in early spring, but hanging nest boxes in mid-February, even when it's still chilly outside.
Yeah.
That just seems counterintuitive, right?
Well, yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But the breeder explains that it's all about, being prepared and preventing, like, potential issues like egg binding.
Oh, I see.
Or frozen eggs. You don't want the precious eggs getting damaged because the birds weren't ready.
So it's like a preventative measure, to make sure the breeding season goes smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay, now I've got to ask about this whole ringing process.
The ringing?
Yeah, the guide mentions ringing the chicks after 10 days. So it's like a tiny bird ID bracelet.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Cool.
Each ring has, like, a unique number, and it lets breeders, keep track of each bird, like their lineage and any specific traits they might have.
Wait, so DNA testing from feathers, that's like standard practice for sexing chicks these days?
It's becoming more common,
Oh, okay.
especially, among breeders who are serious about tracking lineages and ensuring the genetic health of their birds and all that.
Right.
It's way more accurate than just, like, looking at the birds.
So it's like having a genetic blueprint for each bird, which is, pretty incredible.
It is.
Okay, so speaking of details, let's talk about diseases. This guide really goes in depth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to take in. But, instead of going through each disease one by one, what are some key takeaways?
Well, the breeder really stresses that, like, hygiene is paramount,
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, now onto something a bit more fun. Mutations.
The colors.
The guide delves into this amazing array of colors and patterns.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
The variety is incredible. Well, even the standard green coloration, it might seem kind of ordinary compared to, like, all the mutations.
Oh, okay.
But it's still worth appreciating.
Yeah.
It's the wild type plumage after all. perfectly adapted for their natural habitat.
It's a classic for a reason.
Exactly.
But I have to admit, those mutations are pretty captivating. Like a bright yellow Lutino with red eyes.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
Oh, yeah, and the guide points out, the Lutinos, like, really unique feature. The males, they develop this red collar with white markings,
Wow.
contrasting with their yellow plumage. Beautiful.
It's like they're wearing a custom-designed accessory.
I know.
Okay, I'm curious about the blue mutation. The guide mentions it's like super important for developing other color variations.
Oh, it is.
Why is that?
Well, the blue mutation is recessive, meaning both parents need to carry the gene for it to be expressed in their offspring. So, like, it's a valuable tool for breeders who, want to create new and exciting color combinations.
So it's like a secret ingredient in the recipe for Alexandrine parakeet colors.
Exactly. And by combining the blue mutation with other mutations, breeders can create, a whole spectrum of possibilities.
That's so cool.
I know, right?
It's like a genetic puzzle, combining different pieces to create all these amazing variations.
I know, it's incredible.
Speaking of puzzles, the guide mentions the albino Alexandrine parakeet.
Oh, yeah?
Are they really completely white like a blank canvas?
Totally. Like, they don't have any pigment at all.
Wow.
Pure white plumage and those striking red eyes. What's interesting is they don't have any wing patches either.
Oh, so it's just pure white.
Yep.
Wow, so it's like nature's minimalist masterpiece.
Haha, I like that.
But what about the males? Do they still get that distinctive collar?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting.
Hey.
Regular albino males,
Yeah.
they don't have a collar,
Really?
which is like unusual for Alexandrine parakeets.
Huh.
But there's a variation called the albino recessive gray, and the males do get a collar.
Oh, okay.
And it's dark gray.
So it's like a hidden surprise, a collar that only shows up in this specific variation.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, so now onto the dominant gray-green. The guide calls it a jewel to see, but it also mentions hybrids.
Oh yeah, the hybrids.
What's the deal with that?
Well, the dominant gray-green is definitely visually stunning, but there are a lot of hybrids out there.
Oh, no.
Especially from, less reputable sources.
I see.
The guide emphasizes the importance of, getting your birds from breeders who really care about those pure lineages.
So it's about ethical breeding practices and preserving the genetic integrity of the birds, right?
Exactly.
But what does a pure dominant gray-green actually look like?
Okay, so they have this captivating coloration, kind of ranges from brown to dark green, and those eye-catching red wing patches.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Oh, and the males, they develop a black and pink collar,
Wow, so it's like brown, green, black, and pink. You wouldn't really expect that color combination in a parrot. But why is it called dominant gray-green?
Ah, good question. That comes in onto the genetics.
Oh, okay.
The dominant gray-green gene only needs to be present in one parent for the offspring to inherit it.
Okay.
So if you breed a dominant gray-green with a standard green, there's a good chance some of the chicks will also be dominant gray-greens.
So it's a dominant trait. It passes down easily. That makes sense. Now, what about the Aqua or Emerald Alexandrine Parakeet? Is this another one that originated in Europe?
That's right. It first popped up in Europe around 1985.
Wow.
And they have this stunning green-blue plumage, pretty different from the standard green.
It sounds like the color of, a tropical lagoon or something.
I know, right?
But what about their breeding potential? Can they be combined with other mutations to create new colors?
Oh, totally. Like, the guide mentions that if you combine them with albinos, you get this gorgeous cream-colored bird
Really?
with orange markings on the shoulders.
Wow.
And get this, the males of this combination get an orange neck ring.
So it's like mixing paint colors, but with genes. What other combinations are possible with the aqua mutation?
Well, the guide mentions you can also combine them with recessive gray and dominant gray,
Okay,
but those are still, like, pretty rare combinations.
I see.
It's like a whole frontier of color possibilities out there.
It's pretty amazing
I know.
to think about all the combinations still waiting to be discovered. Okay, onto a mutation that sounds a bit mysterious, the dark green. What makes this one special?
Well, the dark green mutation is still pretty rare. It's characterized by, well, dark green plumage, obviously.
Okay.
But they have red shoulder patches and, get this, 2 cobalt blue tail feathers.
Cobalt blue tail feathers. Wow, that's unexpected.
Right.
So what role does this mutation play in breeding?
The guide explains that it's like a key ingredient in creating the cobalt Alexandrine Parakeet.
Oh, the cobalt.
A stunning bird with deep, dark blue plumage and those light gray wing patches.
So it's like a stepping stone to an even more intense blue.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's amazing how all these mutations, build upon each other. Now, I know this guide is all about breeding. Now, not everyone is cut out to be a breeder, right?
Right.
What about folks who just want to, enjoy the beauty of these birds as companions?
That's totally understandable. Alexandrine parakeets can definitely make amazing pets. but potential owners need to be prepared for the commitment, you know?
Yeah.
These are smart social creatures. They need more than just a cage and some food.
So, like, what are some key things people should consider before they decide to, bring an Alexandrian parakeet into their home?
Well, space is huge.
Okay.
Like, these birds can get big and they need room to move around, exercise their wings, explore, you know.
I see.
Think spacious aviaries or large cages with plenty of toys and things to keep them entertained.
So no tiny cages tucked away in a corner. It's about giving them a space where they can really thrive. What else is important?
The other big thing is the commitment. Like, these birds can live for decades.
Wow.
It's a long-term responsibility. They need daily interaction, mental stimulation, a healthy diet, all that good stuff.
So it's really a partnership, not just a passing fancy.
Exactly.
Okay, what about those captivating vocalizations we talked about earlier? Is noise something people need to consider?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Their calls can get pretty loud, especially when they're excited or want attention.
So you live in an apartment or have close neighbors, it's something to think about.
Definitely.
Okay. What about training and socialization? Are these birds easy to train?
Well, they're definitely smart birds.
Yeah.
So they are capable of learning, but they also need consistent training and socialization to avoid any behavioral issues.
Right. Makes sense.
Positive reinforcement is super effective, like rewarding good behavior with treats and praise.
So it's all about building a positive and trusting relationship.
Exactly.
What about their diet? What should Alexandrian parakeets be eating?
Well, their diet should include a variety of, fresh fruits, vegetables, and high-quality parrot pellets.
Okay.
Nuts and seeds can be given as treats, but only in moderation.
So it's all about providing a balanced and nutritious diet.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Now, what about grooming? Those beautiful feathers probably require some upkeep, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Wow.
Regular bathing is important for their feathers.
Oh, okay.
You can give them like a shallow dish of water or gently mist them with a spay bottle.
Do they, enjoy bath time? I can imagine it's pretty cute to watch them splash around.
Some of them love it.
Oh.
Some need a bit of coaxing.
Haha, yeah.
It really depends on the bird.
Yeah, I guess it's like with people. Some are bath people, some aren't.
Exactly.
What about nail trimming? I imagine those talons can get pretty sharp.
Yeah, regular nail trims are definitely important.
Okay.
It's often best to have a vet or an experienced bird groomer do it, though.
Oh, okay.
Especially if you're not comfortable doing it yourself.
Yeah, I can imagine that could be a little tricky.
It can be.
So it's better to, be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
When are the chicks usually weaned and ready to go to, new homes?
Usually around 10 to 12 weeks of age.
Okay.
But it's important to remember, they're still young and impressionable at this stage.
So it's not just about their physical development. It's about making sure they're, well socialized and ready for that transition to a new home?
It's a great way to put it. The guide stresses, finding responsible, knowledgeable homes for the chicks. Homes where they'll get the care, attention, and stimulation they need.
It's kind of like sending your kids off to college, right?
Aha, yeah. It's been a true deep dive. And like with any deep dive, I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
Always more to learn. But before we wrap up, let's give our listeners something to think about. One last thought-provoking question.
Okay, how about this? If Alexander the Great, the guy these birds are named after,
Yeah.
if he could see all the different colors and mutations we have today,
Oh, that's interesting.
do you think he'd still be all about that standard green? Or would he be blown away by the lutinos, the aquas, the cobalts, all those variations?
That's a great question. Really makes you think about how our tastes and preferences change over time.
And it makes you appreciate the role breeders play, right? Shaping the world of, all these birds we love.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we want to thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Alexandrine parakeets. We hope you've enjoyed the ride.
We hope you've learned something new and that you'll keep exploring the fascinating world of these incredible birds.
Until next time, happy birding.